Dear viewers, welcome to our channel GS Bank Academy. Today I am going to present about principles and practice of banking. Some most important information topics including recalled questions of previous examinations. Now, CRAR, capital to risk weighted assets ratio calculation formula. CRAR, capital to risk weighted assets ratio formula is capital by risk weighted assets, capital by risk weighted assets, or common equity tier 1 capital plus additional tier 1 capital plus tier 2 capital divided by total risk weighted assets. Total risk weighted assets for credit risk plus market risk and operational risk into 100. That is the CRAR of the bank you are calculating. So one is total capital by regulatory capital by total risk weighted assets or common equity tier 1 capital plus additional tier 1 capital plus tier 2 capital divided by total risk weighted assets for credit risk, market risk and operation risk into 100. You will get CRAR, capital to risk weighted. Liquidity coverage ratio. Liquidity coverage ratio. How we are going to calculate the liquidity? Liquidity coverage ratio. This is introduced under Basel III. What is the formula? Stock of high quality liquid assets. High quality liquid assets divided by total net cash outflow over the next 30 calendar days. Now, stock of high quality liquid assets means cash in hand, cash with other banks, excess cash with RBI, SLR securities, gold, other approved securities for LCR ratio by RBI. That is the total divided by total net cash flow. Net cash flow means total inflow during the next 30 days minus total outflow during the next 30 days. We can get net cash outflow. This figure you will get from ALM structure liquidity statement. 1 day, 2 to 7 days, 8 to 14 days, 15 days to 30 days bucket you will get this. So as of today, liquidity coverage ratio for Indian banks is 100%. 100% required. That is it. Net stable funding ratio. These two are liquidity standards introduced under Basel III. Liquidity coverage ratio and a net stable funding ratio. Both are liquidity standards introduced under Basel III. What is the formula for net stable funding ratio? Available amount of stable funding means this is also as good as stock of high quality liquid assets that is available in stable funding divided by required amount of stable funding during next 1 year. So liquidity coverage ratio talks about 30 calendar days. Net stable funding ratio, it will talks about up to 1 year horizon. So required amount of stable funding means total payment outflow up to 1 year divided by what is the available amount of stable funding. So far this ratio was not implemented and introduced in India, net stable funding ratio. But liquidity coverage ratio already introduced, present liquidity coverage ratio is 100%. Leverage ratio, it was introduced under Basel III, implemented in India also, leverage ratio. It is as good as a long-term loans divided by equity, debt equity ratio. Leverage ratio is equal to total tier 1 capital of the bank, tier 1 capital. Tier 1 capital means common equity tier 1 capital plus additional tier 1 capital. That is called total tier 1 capital divided by total exposure. Total exposure means total fund-based exposure as per bank's balance sheet. Non-fund-based assets as per balance sheet schedule number 12, which we are converting into fund-based by applying credit conversion factors, but without risk weighted. Fund-based and non-fund-based assets without risk weight. Now for CRAR, we are calculating risk weighted purpose. But leverage ratio, we are taking as it is outstanding from the fund-based assets from the balance sheet. Non-fund-based assets, which are as per balance sheet schedule number 12, we are converting into fund-based by applying credit conversion factors. This is there. As of today, leverage ratio for SBI, ICICI and HDFC Bank 4%, other banks 3.5% as per RBI stipulation. Leverage ratio for SBI, ICICI and HDFC 4%, other banks 3.5. These four ratios are important in Basel III compliances. Basel III calculations, these four are very important and which are also important for Principal and Frattisa Bank and CAB, BFM also, Bank Financial Management. Now, prompt corrective action. How RBI can declare the bank as a prompt corrective action bank or weak bank. This is prompt corrective action bank. RBI initiates prompt corrective action against commercial banks in India. These four formals or points are there. One is PCA bank means weak bank, which comes under RBI monitoring. Still there are 3 or 4 banks are there in PCA concept. Now, capital to risk weighted assets ratio, CRAR, less than 10.25. Capital to risk weighted assets ratio is less than 10.25 of the bank. That bank will be comes under PCA framework. Number 2, net NPA above 6%. If any bank net NPA is above 6, the bank will come under ambit of PCA. Net NPA means gross NPA minus provisions. Number 2. Number 3, return on assets. Negative ROA. Return on assets means net profit after tax divided by total interest earning assets. Return on assets. That is negative means losses. Negative ROA for 2 consecutive years. From 2 years. So losses from 2 years. If a bank is in losses, then ROA is also in negative. That's why the bank is in losses for 2 years. That will come under PCA, prompt corrective. Fourth point is leverage ratio is one of the point for consideration of bank as PCA leverage ratio. These are the 4 points against commercial banks. RBI can initiate PCA, prompt corrective action step against commercial banks. This is about PCA concept against commercial banks, 4 points. Now coming to this side, supervisory action framework, SFA. SFA means supervisory, SAF, supervisory action framework, SAF, supervisory action framework for primary urban cooperative banks. RBI notification 6 January 2020. What are the threshold? What are the trigger points and supervisory action for urban cooperative banks? 3 points are there. Supervisory action framework against primary cooperative urban cooperative, primary urban cooperative banks, urban cooperative. What are their asset quality? Urban cooperative bank asset quality and net NPA exceeds 6%. So net NPA, here also net NPA above 6%, here also net NPA exceeds 6%. That is the supervisory action framework can be initiated by RBI against that urban cooperative bank. Number 1. Number 2, profitability. The bank is in losses for 2 years, 2 financial years, and or the bank is having accumulated losses in its balance sheet. If any urban cooperative bank is having accumulated losses in its balance sheet, that will come under supervisory action framework. So RBI will initiate monitoring against that bank. Or the bank is incurring losses for 2 consecutive years, that also will come. Second, there ROA, same. Capital to risk weighted assets, CRAR. So CRAR is important not only for commercial banks, for also urban cooperative banks. All banks, CRAR is important. Any bank, CRAR, any urban cooperative bank, CRAR falls below 9%, then it will come under supervisory action framework for primary. Why I am taking this? Now they are asking in the examination, JIB, CIB, circulars issued up to 31st 12 2020, 31st December 2020, relevant circulars they are asking in the examination. That's why this is important for JIB as well as CIB also. So prompt corrective action against commercial banks, supervisory action framework against primary urban cooperative banks. This is the slide is very clear. Now, exposure norms. Exposure norms means one bank can take maximum loan, maximum exposure to a single borrower or group borrower. This is this side, right? Scheduled commercial banks. This is for urban cooperative banks. This is RBI notification dated 13th March 2020. This is 1/4/2019. Scheduled commercial banks. Large exposure framework means bank's exposure means bank's loan, bank's overall exposure, overall loan to single borrower. Single counterparty means single borrower, not more than 20% of Tier 1 capital. So, one bank overall total exposure to a single borrower, not more than 20% of bank's Tier 1 capital. Tier 1 capital means again you have to go for Tier 1 calculation as per Basel 2 and Basel 3. Tier 1 capital means normally, generally own capital along with revaluation reserves plus foreign currency translation reserve that we have to take into consideration. Group company. How much a bank can take a exposure to a group company? 25% of Tier 1 capital of the bank. This is for scheduled commercial banks exposure loan to a single borrower 20%, to a group borrower 25% of Tier 1. Coming to this, urban cooperative banks, the prudential exposure limit to urban cooperative banks to a single borrower, single party, 15% of Tier 1. Here commercial banks 20%, urban cooperative banks 15% of Tier 1. Group of connected borrowers 25% of Tier 1 capital. Group 25, single 15. Now, any urban cooperative bank is having more exposure than this amount, they have to bring down. Now, urban shall bring down their existing exposure, which are in excess of the revised limits, within the aforesaid revised limits by 31st March 2023. Any urban cooperative bank is having more limit than this 15% or 25%. RBI has given a time to bring back to these levels by 31st March 2023. This is the roadmap for exposure norms. Very, very important for all JAB and CAB also. Now, urban cooperative banks are regulated by RBI. In the urban cooperative banks, there shall be a board of management in every urban cooperative bank. In between management and board of directors, there is a board of management there, where it is mandatory, where their deposit size is 100 crores and above, they have to establish board of management. The board of management, excluding chief executive officer, minimum 5, maximum 12. This is also 31st December 2019, the circular was issued by RBI. So, this is also very important. Urban cooperative banks having a deposit size of 100 crores and above shall obtain prior approval of Reserve Bank of India for appointment of chief executive officer. Means slowly RBI is coming a big manner against urban cooperative banks. So, urban cooperative banks are also controlled fully in this manner. If we can say, this is like that. Loan delivery system. This is applicable to scheduled commercial banks. In India, the loan delivery system was introduced with effect from 1st April 2019 onwards. What is the objective for loan delivery system? To impart an element of discipline against the borrower. So, to improve the discipline in the element of borrowing against the customers, loan delivery system was introduced. Applicable to accounts with MPBF, maximum permissible bank finance, working capital limits. This is only applicable to working capital limits of 150 crore and above from the banking system. Borrower enjoying limits working capital from the banking system, not from individual, all banks. Now, for this 150 crores limit, we can exclude export finance, free shipment finance, post shipment finance, and bills limit for inland sales. For bills limit inland sales. For 150 crores calculation, these limits are excluded. What are their? Export, free, post, and bill limits for inland sales. Now this is the cutoff limit 150 crores and above. Now the 150 crores and above, the amount is going to be bifurcated between working capital demand loan with repayment of minimum 7 days. Working capital demand loan 60% and cash credit component 40%. It means out of 150 crores and above loan, 60% we are going in a loan with demand loan with repayment period. Minimum repayment period 7 days or above as per request of the party, and the remaining cash credit portion is 40%, where banks are allowed to allow the operations in the form of running account. Cash credit means working capital limits, running account, that is 40%. This is there. This is also important for all the exams. Seize and desist proceedings orders. This is also SEBI guidelines. If SEBI, Securities Exchange Board of India, capital market regulator, finds after conducting an inquiry to be made that any person has already violated or likely to be going to violate any provisions of the SEBI Act, Securities Exchange Board of India Act 1992, or any rules or regulations made under it, may pass an order requiring such person to cease, means to stop further. Cease means to stop or to end that practice, and discontinue that practice from committing or causing such violation in future. So that's why this is very important for normally for all exams. When a SEBI can pass a cease and desist orders. This is the, so when after inquiry only SEBI will pass this order. So after this order, the party who is doing, he had to stop that order and he cannot discontinue that practice. That is there. What is the next? What is the maximum extent up to which a single investor can hold shares in an Indian stock exchange? 5%. Any stock in any stock exchange, one single investor maximum we can go for share paid up capital up to 5%. Because now all the stock exchanges are converted into from member oriented, association oriented to companies oriented, listed companies oriented. So in this case, one single investor maximum 5%. Now, qualified institutional buyers. Who are the qualified institutional buyers? Financial institutions, scheduled commercial banks, mutual funds, financial foreign institutional investors. Now, they call the financial institutions, scheduled commercial banks, mutual funds, and foreign institutional investors, venture capital funds, state industrial development corporations, insurance companies, fraudulent fund companies with a minimum capital corpus of net worth of 25 crores are treated as qualified institutional buyers. And these institutions are registered with SEBI as QIB, number one. Number two, in the public issues, these QIBs are getting preferential treatment. Out of total public issue, these QIBs are getting at least minimum 50% of the total public issue, they are getting preferential allotment to qualified institutional buyers. Qualified institutional buyers. Mutual funds, regulatory SEBI. Foreign institutional investors who are investing in Indian capital market, they have to register with SEBI. This is the QIBs. Retail investor. Who is a retail investor? Is total investment up to 2 lakh rupees in initial public offer, follow-on public offer as per revised SEBI directives. As per revised SEBI directives, retail investor means in an IPO, initial public offer, follow-on public offer, 2 lakhs investment is there, it can be treated as retail. NBFCs, non-banking financial companies. NBFCs, Non-banking financial companies are regulated by RBI. NBFCs are regulated by Reserve Bank of India, comma. The minimum net worth is required 2 crores for registration with RBI. Without registration with RBI, NBFCs are not allowed to start the functioning of NBFC. That's why regulated by RBI and minimum net worth required for registration is 2 crores. This is NBFC, non-banking financial company. FDI, foreign direct investment. As of today, in almost all sectors, we are getting foreign direct investment. What is meant by foreign direct investment? The foreign investors, they are investing in Indian companies or Indian banks, Indian mutual funds, in long-term investments. Investment means it may be mostly long-term. So, the foreign direct investment useful for asset creation in investment in industries or banks. Now, banks are also there. Now, recently, 2021, Government of India, taken Parliament, passed the increased the FDI, foreign direct investment in insurance sector from 49% to up to 74%. This is the latest initiative of our Government of India. In the insurance sector also, foreign direct investment, they can take up to 74%. The benefit of foreign direct investment means now we can get long-term funds, where long-term funds in the companies or banks also. That is it. Now, foreign institutional investors, FII, foreign institutional investors. The institutional investors means foreign mutual funds, foreign banks, foreign other eligible institutions. They are investing in Indian capital market. First, they have to register with SEBI. Any foreign institutional investor want to invest in India, first they have to register with SEBI. Then afterwards, they are allowed to invest in Indian capital markets and mutual funds. Now, what is the difference between FDI and foreign institutional investments? FDI, that is a investment long-term asset creation. Whereas foreign institutional investors, they are investing in the shares, bonds of the Indian companies in the Indian capital market. At any time they want to invest, they can invest. At any time they want to dispose, they can dispose of the in the market also. That is the difference between FDI and FII, foreign institutional investors. Investment in capital market and mutual funds. So whenever foreign institutional investors are investing in Indian capital market, Indian capital market indexes are, share prices are increasing, index also increasing. Whenever they are offloading our share prices, this is FDI is long term. This is only investment in the capital market. FDI in private sector banks 74%. In foreign FDI, we can receive foreign direct investment in foreign banks, in private sector banks 74, up to 49% automatic route. Beyond that, approval from RBI. Now, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, already 74% limit is over. FDI limit is over up to 74%. In government sector banks, public sector banks, foreign direct investment is allowed only up to 20%. Up to 20% only. This is about FDI. Now, Central Repository Information on Large Credit, CRILC, CRILC. One, they are asking abbreviation, CRILC, Central Repository Information of Large Credit. We had set up by RBI and monitored by RBI. It will collect the data, store the data, and disclose the data where required. Banks are required to report this information to RBI. 5 crores and above, fund-based advances, non-fund-based advances. Monthly, they have to report to RBI under CRILC. SMA status, special mentioned account status 0, 1 to weekly basis, they have to report to RBI. So, at any point of time also, 5 crores and above accounts, or details are available with the RBI under CRILIC fraud forum. And also banks also report outstanding current account balances either in credit balance or in debit balance 1 crore and above to RBI. What is the objective? Now, normally, generally, frauds are taking place. To prevent the frauds also, this platform is useful. From where the customer has availed the loans, that is also we can take. Now, this is for MSMEs, micro, MSME, MSMED and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act. Delayed payment safeguards of micro, medium enterprises. MSME ED Act 2006. Section 16 of micro, small and medium enterprises. Micro means investment 1 crore, turnover up to 5 crores. Small enterprise investment 10 crores and turnover not exceeding 50 crores. Medium enterprise investment 50 crores, turnover not exceeding 250 crores. This is the latest definition for MSME Development Act 2016. In case now delayed payment to safeguard the interest of the MSME units. In case the buyer failed to make payment, when anybody is buying the goods or raw material from MSME, the buyer failed to make payment of the amount to the supplier not exceeding within 45 days. From the date of purchase, normally they have to pay within 45 days. If the buyer failed to pay within 45 days from the date of purchase, he shall be liable to pay compounded interest with monthly rest. Compounded interest, monthly rest to the MSME supplier. What is the rate? At 3 times of the bank rate, as notified by Reserve Bank of India. Present bank rate is 4.25. Present bank rate is 4.25. 3 times means 4.25 into 3, 9.75%. Then when a delay taken place beyond 45 days, the buyer shall be liable to pay compound interest, monthly rest at the rate of 3 times of the bank. This is going to safeguard the interest of MSME customers. Otherwise, the big organization, they are purchasing months together, they are not making payment to this. This is the Government of India initiative to protect to safeguard the interest of the MSME. Very good step. NI Act Section 120, crossing of checks. Now, I am discussing separately crossing of checks. These questions also they are asking in examination. Normally, this is important for all exams. NI Act Section 123 to 131 deal with crossing of checks. Crossing is a direction to the paying banker to pay only through accounts, not to pay across the counter. That is the direction to the paying banker. Section 123, general crossing. General crossing. General crossing means is done by drawing 2 parallel transverse lines across the face of the check. If you are marking 2 lines across the face of the check, that is called as general crossing. Special crossing means along with the transverse lines, with or without transverse lines, we are mentioning a name of the bank. Crossing with the name of the bank. We are mentioning some particular name of the bank, that is special crossing. It is the indication to the paying bank that check has to be presented through the name, which the name was mentioned in the special crossing. That is the direction. Now, account pay crossing not defined in a NI Act. Only is practice, account pay crossing. Section 30, very important, not negotiable crossing. Section 130 of Negotiable Instrument Act, not negotiable crossing. What is meant by meaning of the not negotiable crossing? A person taking a check, generally or special crossing. May be general crossing, may be special crossing, with words not negotiable. General crossing with not negotiable or special crossing with not negotiable. What is the hint? To the others, shall not have and shall not be capable of giving better title to the check than that which the person from whom it. It means that the transferor who is transferring the check, he cannot give better title to the transferee, or under negotiable, not negotiable crossing, the transferee of the check cannot cannot derive better title than the transferor. Transferor means who is transferring the check. That is very important in the examinations, not negotiable crossing. Shall not be capable of giving a better title to the check from that which the person from whom he took it ad. Section 131. Section 131, collecting banker protection. Section 131, collecting banker protection. Collecting banker. This is also important. No liability or non-liability of a collecting banker received payment of the check. Collecting banker collecting the check on behalf of the customer. What are the conditions for getting the protection under section 131? The collecting bank must acted in good faith. Must acted in good faith without negligence. At the time of collection, the bank has not acted with negligence. Means any doubt is there, they have to clear the doubt before collecting the check. And agent for collection. What is meant by agent for collection? At the time of collection of the check, the collecting banker is the agent and the customer is the principal. So, on behalf of the customer, the bank must collect the check for getting protection under section 131. And the check must be a crossed one. At the time of collecting of the bank, collection banker getting protection, crossed check only the collecting banker will get protection. So they are asking one question. At the time of collecting of the check, collecting banker must act in good faith, must act without negligence, must be agent for collection on behalf of customer, and the check must be a crossed one. So these are the some important points about the crossing of check. Thank you very much viewers for watching our channel regularly, and please subscribe our channel for getting direct notifications. We are also conducting for JAP CAB classes for forthcoming November or December examinations. Interested members are requested to contact. Thank you very much for all.